Madam Arcoti.
My dear Mrs. Condomy, I came directly. I got your message.
Well, that was very kind of you.
Oh, nonsense, not kind at all. I look upon it as an outing.
I'm so glad. Will you have some tea?
China or Indian?
China.
Oh, good. I never touch Indian. It upsets my vibrations.
Do sit down.
I find this room very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I noticed it the other night.
I'm not entirely surprised.
Have you ever been to Cowden Manor?
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
It's very interesting, too. It strikes you like a bolt between the eyes the moment you walk into the drawing room. 2 lumps of sugar, please, and no milk at all.
I'm profoundly disturbed, Madam Arcoti, and I want your help.
Oh, I thought as much. Well, what's in these sandwiches?
Cucumber.
Oh, couldn't be better. Carry on.
It's most awfully difficult to explain.
Facts first, explanations afterward.
It's the facts that are difficult to explain. They're so fantastic.
Facts generally are. Take creative talent, for instance. How do you account for that? I know it's the fashion nowadays to ascribe it all to glance. My reply to that, Mrs. Condomy, is fiddle-dee-dee.
Yes, I'm sure you're quite right.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Mrs. Condomy.
There certainly are.
Well, take the plunge. Come along. You've heard strange noises in the night, no doubt. Boards creaking, doors slamming, subdued moaning in the passages. Is that it?
No, I'm afraid it isn't.
No sudden gusts of cold wind, I hope.
It's worse than that.
I'm all attention.
I know it sounds idiotic, but the other night during the seance, something happened.
Oh, I knew it. Probably a poltergeist. They're unusually secretive. They can sometimes lie doggo for days.
You know that my husband was married before?
Yes, I've heard it mentioned.
His first wife, Elvira, died comparatively young.
Where?
Here, in this house, in this very room.
I'm beginning to see daylight.
She was convalescing after pneumonia, and one evening she started to laugh helplessly at one of the BBC musical programs and died of a heart attack.
And she materialized right here the other night after I'd gone?
Not to me, but to my husband.
Capital. Oh, but that's splendid. Oh,
I can see how, from your professional standpoint, how that might be considered a major achievement.
a triumph, my dear. Nothing more nor less than a triumph.
But from my own personal point of view, it is, to say the least of it, embarrassing.
At last, a genuine manifestation.
Do sit down again, Madam Arcoti.
Oh, who could sit at a moment like this? This is tremendous. I haven't had such a success since the Sudbury case.
Nevertheless, I must insist upon your sitting down and controlling your natural exuberance. I fully appreciate your pride in your achievement, but I'd like to point out that it has made my position in this house untenable, and that I hold you entirely responsible.
I'm extremely sorry, Mrs. Gunn. I have been abominably selfish. How can I help you?
How? By sending her back immediately to where she came from, of course.
I'm afraid that's rather easier said than done.
Do you mean to tell me that she's liable to stay here indefinitely?
It's difficult to say. I fear it depends largely upon her.
But my dear Madam Arcoti,
Where is she now?
my husband has driven her into Folkestone. Apparently she was anxious to see an old friend of hers who's staying at the Grand.
Please excuse this formality, but I must write a report to the Psychical Society immediately.
I must insist that there are no names mentioned.
The report is highly confidential.
This is a small village, you know, and gossip would be most undesirable.
I am quite aware of that. You say she's visible only to your husband?
Yes.
Visible only to husband. And audible too, I presume.
Extremely audible.
Extremely audible. Your husband was very devoted to her?
I believe so.
Husband devoted.
It was apparently a reasonably happy marriage.
Oh, tut, tut.
I beg your pardon?
And when did she pass over?
7 years ago.
Aha. That means she must have been on the waiting list.
Waiting list?
Yes, otherwise she would have gotten beyond the materialization stage by now. She must have put herself down for a return visit. And she'd never have been able to manage that unless there was a strong influence at work.
Do you mean that Charles, my husband, wanted her back all that much?
Possibly, or maybe it was her own determination.
That sounds much more likely.
Would you say she was a woman of strong character?
I really don't know, Madame Marcotte. I never met her, nor am I particularly interested in how and why she got here. I'm solely concerned with the question of how to get her away again as soon as possible.
I fully sympathize, Mrs. Condomine, and I assure you I will do everything in my power to help, but I fear I cannot offer any great hopes.
Be that as it may, Madame Marcotte, I must beg of you to do your utmost to dematerialize my husband's first wife as soon as possible.
The time has come, Mrs. Condomine, to admit to you frankly that I haven't the slightest idea how to set about it.
Do you mean to sit there and tell me, having mischievously conjured up this ghost or spirit or whatever she is and placed me in a hideous position, that you are unable to do anything about it at all?
Honesty is the best policy.
But that's outrageous. I ought to hand you over to the police.
Well, you go too far, Mrs. Condomine.
I go too far indeed. Do you realize what your insane amateur muddling has done?
I have been a professional since I was a child. Amateur is a word I cannot tolerate.
It seems to me to be the height of amateurishness to evoke a malignant spirit and not be able to get rid of it again.
I was in a trance. Anything might happen when I am in a trance.
All I can suggest then is that you go into another one immediately and get this damned woman out of my house.
I can't go into a trance at a moment's notice. It takes hours of preparation.
Well, you have to do something.
Nothing can be achieved by upsetting yourself.
It's all fine for you to talk like that, Madame Marcotte. You don't seem to have the slightest realization of my position.
Think of the happy side.
Happy side indeed. If your husband's first wife appeared out of the grave suddenly and came to live with you in your home, do you suppose that you could look on the bright side?
Kindly remember that I came here the other night on your own invitation.
On my husband's invitation.
I did what I was expected to do, which was to give a seance and establish contact with the other side. I had no idea there was any ulterior motive mixed up with it.
Ulterior motive?
Your husband was clearly anxious to get in touch with his former wife.
He had no intention of getting in touch with anyone. The whole thing was planned in order for him to get material for a mystery story he's writing about a homicidal medium.
Do you mean to say I was only invited in the spirit of mockery?
Not at all. He merely wanted to make notes of some of the tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade? Insufferable. I have never been so insulted in my life. I fear we have nothing more to say to one another. Mrs. Condomine, goodbye.
Please don't go, please.
Your attitude from the outset, Mrs. Condomine, has been most unpleasant. Some of your remarks have been discourteous in the extreme. And I should say, without umbrage, that if you and your husband were foolish enough to tamper with the unseen for paltry motives and in a spirit of ribaldry, everything that has happened to you is your own fault. And to coin a phrase, I hope you stew in your own juice.
Damn!
What on earth was Madame Marcotte doing here?
She came to tea.
Oh, did you ask her?
Of course I did.
Well, why not for? Well, you never told me you were going to.
You never told me you were going to ask Elvira to live with us.
I didn't.
Oh, yes, you did, darling. It was your subconscious.
Well, what was the old girl so cross about? She practically cut me dead.
I told her the truth about why we invited her the other night.
That was most unnecessary and quite unkind.
She needed taking down a bit. She was blowing herself out like a pouter pigeon.
But why did you ask her to tea?
To get me exorcised, of course. Oh dear, I do wish I could have a cucumber sandwich. I did love them so.
Is that true?
Is what true?
What Elvira said.
You know perfectly well I can't hear what Elvira says.
She said you got Madame Arcotti here to get her exercise. Is that true?
We discussed the possibilities.
There's a snake in the grass for you.
You had no right to do that without consulting me first.
I have every right. The situation is impossible, and you know it.
If only you tried to be a little more friendly to Elvira, we might all have a jolly time.
I have no wish to have a jolly time with Elvira.
Well, she's certainly very bad-tempered, isn't she? I can't think why you married her.
She's naturally a bit upset. We must make allowances.
I was never bad-tempered, though, was I, darling? Not even when you were beastly to me.
I was never beastly to you.
Where is Elvira at the moment?
She's in the chair by the table.
Now look here, Elvira. I shall have to call you Elvira, shan't I? I can't very well go on saying Mrs. Condamine all the time. It would sound too silly.
Oh, I don't see why.
Did she say anything?
She said she'd like nothing more.
You really are sweet, Charles. I worship you.
I wish to be absolutely honest with you, Elvira.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
I admit that I did ask Madame Arcotti here with a view to having you exercise, and I think that if you were in my position, you would have done exactly the same thing, wouldn't you?
I shouldn't have done it so obviously.
What did she say?
Nothing. She just nodded and smiled.
Thank you, Elvira. That was very generous of you. I would prefer there were no misunderstandings between us. I would like, therefore, before we go any further, to ask you a frank question. Why did you really come here? I don't see what you could have hoped to achieve beyond the immediate joke of making Charles into some sort of astral bigamist.
I came because the power of Charles's love tugged and tugged and tugged at me. Didn't it, my sweet?
What did she say?
She said she wanted to see me again.
Well, she's done that now, hasn't she?
Well, we can't be inhospitable, Ruth.
I have no wish to be inhospitable, but I should like to have some idea of how long you intend to stay, Elvira.
I don't know. I really don't know. Isn't it awful?
She says she doesn't know.
Surely that's a little inconsiderate.
Why? Didn't the old spiritualist have any constructive ideas about getting rid of me?
What did Madame Arcotti say?
She said she couldn't do a thing.
Hooray!
Well, don't be upset, Ruth. We shall soon learn to adjust ourselves. You must admit it's a unique situation. I can see no valid reason why we shouldn't all get a great deal of fun out of it.
Fun? Charles, how can you? You're out of your mind.
No, I thought I was at first, but now I'm really beginning to enjoy myself.
Oh, Charles!
Oh, please
off
don't get
again.
to the state.
What did she say?
Oh, she didn't say anything, nothing of the
I
sort.
suppose she said something insulting.
She did not. She said nothing of the sort.
Now look here, Elvira.
She's over by the doors now, darling. She's...
Why the hell can't she stay in the same place?
Temper again. My poor Charles, what a terrible life you must lead.
Do shut up, darling. You're only going to make everything worse.
Who was that darling addressed to, her or me?
Both of you.
This is intolerable.
Don't get in a state.
I've been doing my level best to control myself ever since yesterday morning, and I'll be damned if I'm going to try any more. She has the advantage of being able to say whatever she pleases without me being able to hear her. But she can hear me all right, can't she, without any modified interpreting?
Modified interpreting? I don't know what you mean.
Oh, yes, you do. You never once told me what she really said. You wouldn't dare. Judging from her photograph, she's the type who would use the most unpleasant language.
Ruth, you're not to talk like that.
I've been making polite conversation since this nightmare began, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't like Elvira any more than she likes me. And what's more, I know I never could have, dead or alive. I'm going up to my room now, and I shall have my dinner on a tray, and you and she can have the house to yourself and joke and gossip to your heart's content.
Ruth!
Oh, let her go. She'll calm down later on.
It's not like her to behave this way. She's normally so equable.
No, she isn't. Not really. Her mouth gives her away. It's a hard mouth, Charles.
Her mouth's got nothing to do with it. I resent you talking about Ruth as if she were a horse.
Do you love her
Of course I do.
as much as you loved me?
Don't be silly. It's entirely different.
Oh, I'm glad. Nothing could ever have been quite the same, could it?
You always behave very badly.
Oh, Charles.
I am grieved to see that your sojourn in the other world hasn't improved you in the least.
Oh, go on. I love it when you pretend to be cross with me.
Now I'm going up to see Ruth.
Cowardly custard.
Don't be idiotic. I must be at least a little nice and sympathetic to her.
I don't see why. If she's set on being disagreeable, I should just let her get on with it.
This whole business has been very difficult for her. We must be fair.
She should learn to be more adaptable.
Though she probably will in time. It's been a shock.
Has it been a shock for you too, darling?
Of course. What did you expect?
A nice shock?
What do you want, Elvira?
Want? I don't know what you mean.
Well, I seem to remember that whenever you were overpoweringly demure like this, it usually meant that you wanted something.
It's horrid of you to be so suspicious. All I want is to be with you.
Well, you are.
I mean alone, darling. If you go and pamper Ruth, she'll probably come flouncing down again, and our lovely, quiet evening together will be spoilt.
You're incorrigibly selfish.
Well, I haven't seen you for 7 years. It's only natural that I should want some time alone with you to talk over old times. I'll let you go just for a little while if you really feel it's your duty.
You're disgraceful, Elvira.
Oh, you'll come down again very soon. You won't be long, will
Yes,
you?
I should probably dress for dinner. You can read the Tatler or something.
Oh, darling, you don't have to dress. For me.
I always dress for dinner.
What are you going to have? I should like to watch you eat something really delicious.
Be a good girl now. You can listen to the gramophone if you like.
Thank you, Charles.
Does it show any signs of clearing?
No, it's still pouring out.
I do sympathize with you, really I do. It really has been quite a chapter of accidents, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
That happens sometimes, you know. Everything seems to go wrong at once. I remember once when George and I went away on a fortnight's holiday. Everything that went wrong could go wrong. The weather was vile. George sprained his ankle. And I had a cold and had to stay in bed for 2 whole days. And to crown everything, the lamp fell over in the sitting room and set fire to the treatise that George had written on hyperaplasia of the abdominal glands.
How dreadful.
He had to write it all over again, every single word.
Are you sure you wouldn't like a cocktail or some sherry or anything?
No, thank you. George should be down in a minute, and we've got to go like lightning. We're supposed to be at the Wilmots by 7, and it's nearly that now.
I think I'll have a little sherry. I feel I need it.
Don't worry about your husband's arm, Mrs. Condamine. I'm sure it's just a sprain.
It's not his arm I'm worried about.
And I'm sure Edith will be up and about again in a few days.
My cook gave notice this morning.
Well, really, servants are awful, aren't they? Not a shred of gratitude. At the first sign of trouble, they run out on you like rats leaving a sinking ship.
I can't feel that your simile is entirely fortunate, Mrs. Bradman.
Oh, I didn't mean that. Really, I didn't.
Nothing to worry about, Mrs. Condamine. It's only a slight strain.
I'm so relieved.
He made a good deal of fuss when I was examining it. Men are much worse patients than women, you know, particularly highly strung men like your husband.
Is he highly strung, do you think?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I wanted to talk to you about that. I'm afraid he's been overworking lately.
Overworking?
He's in rather a nervous condition. Nothing serious, you understand.
What makes you think so?
I know the symptoms. Of course, the shock of his fall might have something to do with it, but I certainly should advise a complete rest for a couple of weeks.
You mean he ought to go away?
I do. In a case like that, a change of atmosphere can work wonders.
I see. What symptoms did you notice?
No, nothing to be unduly alarmed about. A certain air of strain, an inability to focus his eyes on the person he's talking to, and a few rather marked irrelevancies in his conversation.
Can you remember any specific example?
Oh, he suddenly shouted, "What are you doing in the bathroom?" And then a little later, while I was writing him a prescription, he suddenly said, "For God's sake, behave yourself."
How extraordinary.
He often goes on like that, particularly when he's immersed in writing a book.
Well, I'm not in the least perturbed about it, really, but I do think a rest and a change would be a good idea.
Thank you, Doctor. Would you like some sherry?
No, thank you. We really must be off.
How is poor Edith?
Oh, she'll be all right in a few days. She's still recovering from the concussion.
It is funny, isn't it, that both your housemaid and your husband should fall down on the same day?
Yes, if that sort of thing amuses you.
Of course, Mrs. Condamine, I didn't mean it like that.
Come along, my dear. You're talking too much, as usual.
You are horrid, George. Goodbye, Mrs. Condamine.
Bye.
I'll pop in and have a look at both patients sometime tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, how does it feel?
All right.
It's only a slight sprain, you know.
Is this damn sling really necessary?
It's a wise precaution. It will prevent you using your left arm except when it's really necessary.
I had intended to drive into Folkestone this evening.
It would be much better if you didn't.
It's extremely inconvenient.
Charles, you could easily wait and go tomorrow.
But Charles, I can't stand another of those dreary evenings at home. It'll drive me dotty. Besides, I haven't seen a movie for 7 years.
Let me be the first to congratulate you.
What's that, old man?
Nothing.
Charles, try to be sensible, I implore you.
Sorry.
You can drive the car if you promise to go very slowly and carefully. Your gear change is on the right, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, use your left hand as little as possible.
All right.
You'd much better stay at home.
Couldn't you drive him in?
No, I'm afraid not. I have lots to do in the house and there's Edith to attend to.
Well, I'll leave you to fight it out among yourselves. But remember, if you do insist on going, carefully does it. The roads are very slippery anyhow. Come along, Violet.
Goodbye again.
I'll see you
Goodbye,
later.
Mr. Condamine.
Yes, good night.
You really are infuriating, Elvira. Surely you can wait and go to the movies another night. Stop behaving like a schoolgirl. You're old enough to know better.
What?
I was talking to Elvira.
She isn't here.
She was a moment ago. She threw a rose at me.
She's been very high-spirited all day. I recognize this mood of old. It usually meant that she was up to something.
You're sure she isn't here?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
I want to talk to you.
Oh, God.
I must. It's important.
You've been very good the last few days, Ruth. You're not going to start getting into a state again, are you?
I resent that air of patronage, Charles. My patience is being stretched to its uttermost.
Well, as far as I can see, the problem is just as difficult for Elvira. Maybe even more so. I mean, the poor little thing comes here trustingly from the other side, and what has she met with? Nothing but brawling and hostility.
What does she expect?
Surely, even an ectoplasmic manifestation has the right to expect at least a little of the milk of human kindness.
Milk of human fiddlesticks.
Well, that just doesn't make sense, dear.
Elvira's about as trusting as a puff adder.
You're granite, Ruth. Sheer, unyielding granite.
And a great deal more dangerous into the bargain.
Dangerous. Don't be ridiculous. How can a lonely, wistful little spirit like Elvira be dangerous?
Quite easily. And she is. She's beginning to show her hand.
How? In what way?
This is a fight, Charles. A bloody battle. A duel to the death between Elvira and me. Don't you see that?
Melodramatic hysteria.
It isn't melodramatic hysteria. It's true. She came here for one purpose and one purpose only. And if you can't see it, you're a bigger fool than I thought.
What purpose could she possibly have besides a natural desire to see me again? I mean, after all, we must admit, she was devoted to me, poor child.
Her purpose is perfectly obvious. It's to get you to herself forever.
Don't be absurd. How could she?
By killing you off, of course.
Killing me off? You're mad.
Why do you suppose Edith fell down the stairs and nearly cracked your skull?
What's Edith got to do with this?
Because the whole top of the stair was covered with axle grease. Cook discovered it afterwards.
You're making this up.
I'm not, I swear I'm not. Why do you suppose when you were lopping the dead branch off the pear tree that the ladder broke? Because it was practically sawn through on both sides.
But why should she want to kill me? I could understand her wanting to kill you, but why me?
If you were dead, Charles, it would be her final triumph over me. She'd have you with her forever on her damned astral plane, and I'd be left high and dry. She's probably planning some sort of spiritual remarriage. I wouldn't put anything past her.
Ruth!
Don't you see now?
No, she couldn't be so sly, so wicked, she couldn't.
Couldn't she just
Oh, Ruth.
stop looking like a wounded spaniel and concentrate? This is serious.
Well, what are we to do?
You're not to let her know that we suspect a thing. Behave perfectly ordinarily, as though nothing had happened. I'm going to see Madame Arcotti immediately. I don't care how cross she is, she's got to help us. If a trance is necessary, she shall go into a trance if I have to beat it into her.
Oh, dear.
I'll be back in half an hour. Tell Elvira I've got to see the vicar.
Well, this is appalling.
Never mind that. Don't give yourself away by so much as flick of an eyelid.
Look out!
What?
I merely said it was a nice look out.
What's a nice lookout?
The weather, Elvira, the barometer is going down and down and down and down. It's positively macabre.
I find it difficult to believe that you and Ruth at this particular moment can't think of anything more interesting to talk about than the weather.
I can't stand this anymore. I really
For
can't.
heaven's sake, control yourself.
Has she broken out again?
What did she say?
She asked if you had broken out again.
How dare you speak like that, Elvira? Charles and I were not talking about the weather, as you so shrewdly suspected. I would loathe you to think that we had any secrets from you, and so I shall explain exactly what we were talking about. I was trying to persuade him not to drive you into Folkestone this evening. It will be bad for his arm, and you can perfectly easily wait and go another day. However, as he seems to be determined to place your wishes before mine in everything, I have nothing further to say. I'm sure I hope you both enjoy yourselves.
There now.
Oh, Charles. Have you been beastly to her?
No. Ruth doesn't like being thwarted any more than you do.
She's a woman of sterling character.
I would really rather not discuss Ruth with you. It makes me uncomfortable.
I won't mention her again. Are you ready?
For what?
To go to Folkestone, of course.
I want a glass of sherry first.
I don't believe you want to take me at all.
Of course I want to take you. I merely think we should wait. It's a filthy night.
Oh, how familiar this is.
In what way familiar?
All through our married life, I only had to suggest something for you immediately to start hedging me off.
I am not hedging you off. I merely suggested we should go another time.
all right. We'll spend another cozy, intimate evening at home with Ruth sewing away at that hideous table center and snapping at us like a terrier.
Ruth is perfectly aware that that table center is hideous. Happens to be a birthday present for her mother.
It's no use trying to defend Ruth's taste to me. It's thoroughly artsy-craftsy, and you know it.
It is not artsy-craftsy.
She's ruined this room. Look at those curtains and that awful shawl on the piano.
Lady McKinley sent us that from Burma.
Obviously, because it had been sent to her from Birmingham.
If you don't behave, I shan't take you into Folkestone ever.
Oh, please, Charles, don't be elderly and grand with me. Please, let's go now.
Not until I've had my sherry.
You are tiresome, darling. I've been waiting about for hours.
Well, then a few more minutes won't matter, will it?
Very well.
Besides, the car won't be back for half an hour at least.
What do you mean?
Oh, Ruth's taken it. She had to go and see the vicar.
What?
What's the matter?
You say Ruth's taking the car?
Yes, to go and see the vicar, but she'll be back.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
What is wrong with you?
Stop her. Go ahead and stop her.
Why? What for?
Stop her. Go ahead and stop
Well,
her
it's too
immediately.
late now. I heard the car drive off a few minutes ago.
Oh.
Why are you going on like this?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
What have you done?
Done? I haven't done anything.
Oh, Elvira, you're lying.
I'm not lying. There's nothing to lie
Well,
about.
why are you in such a state for?
I'm not in a state. I don't know what you mean.
You've done something dreadful.
No, Charles, don't look at me like that. I haven't. I swear I
My
haven't.
God, the car!
No,
You've done something
no,
to the
Charles,
car.
no.
Ruth was right. You did want to kill me. What did you do?
No.
Answer me.
No,
Answer me.
No, I didn't do anything with the car.
Hello. Yes, speaking. I see. The bridge at the bottom of the hill. No, I'll come at once. Thank you.
Well, of all the filthy, low-down... Oh! Oh! Ruth! Oh! Stop it! Leave! No! Ruth!
I hope you won't consider this an intrusion, Mr. Condomine.
Oh, no, not at all. Would you sit down, please?
Oh, thank you.
Now, would you like a coffee or some liqueur or something?
No, thank you. I had to come, Mr. Condomine.
Yes?
I felt a tremendous urge, like a rushing wind. So I hopped on my bike, and here I am.
Well, it was most kind of you.
No, not kind at all. It was my duty.
Duty?
I reproach myself bitterly, you know. I allowed myself to get into a huff the other day with your late wife. I rode all the way home in the grip of temper, Mr. Condomine. I have regretted it ever since.
No, my dear Madame Arcotti, there's really
No,
no
please
need.
let me go on. If only I had not been so impetuous, so much might have been averted.
You told my wife very distinctly you could not help her. You were being very honest. I see that you have no reason to reproach yourself.
I threw up the sponge. In a moment of crisis, I threw up the sponge instead of throwing down the gauntlet.
Well, whatever you threw, Madame Arcotti, I'm afraid there was really nothing that could have been done. It seems that circumstances have been a little too strong for all of us.
I cannot bring myself to excuse myself so easily. I should have tried harder, concentrated, made an effort.
Never mind.
But I do mind. I mind with every fiber of my being. I gather we are alone.
Yes, my first wife is not in the room. She's lying down. The funeral exhausted her. My second wife may well be with her, although, of course, I have no way of knowing for certain.
Have you remarked any difference in the texture of your first wife since the accident?
No, she seems a trifle low-spirited, perhaps, a little under the weather, but that's all.
Well, that washes that out.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Just a little theory I had. In the 19th century, it was a pretty widespread belief that a ghost who participated in the death of a human being would disintegrate automatically.
What makes you think that Elvira had anything to do with Ruth's death?
It came to me suddenly, Mr. Condomine. It came to me in a blinding flash. I had just finished my Ovaltine and turned the light out when I sprang up in bed and with a great shout, "Great Scott," I said, "I've got it."
Well, I'd appreciate it if you kept any theories you had about my wife's death to yourself, Madame Arcotti.
I'm only here to help you. I have found a formula. Here it is. You are still anxious to get rid of your first wife, I assume.
Oh, yes, I'm perfectly furious with her. But,
But what?
well, you must understand that apart from me being angry with her, Ruth is hardly left aside. What with one thing and another, she's had a pretty tough time of it, you see.
Well, your thoughts do you credit, Mr. Condomine.
Thank you.
But I must say, if you'll pardon my bluntness, you're a damn fool, Mr. Condomine.
You're at liberty to believe whatever you like.
Oh, now, don't go jumping on your high horse. There's no sense in that, is there? I have here a formula that I think will get rid of her without hurting her feelings in the least. It's extremely simple and requires nothing more than complete concentration from you and a minor trance from me.
Well, I really would rather
Charles,
not, Madame. Oh, what on earth's the matter?
What's she doing here?
She came to give me her condolences.
They should have been congratulations.
Elvira, please don't say things like that. It's in the worst possible taste. Oh, Madame Arcotti, this is my first wife, Elvira.
Oh, how do you do?
Oh, what does she want, Charles? Send her away.
Where is she in the room,
But
Mr.
she's
President?
moving about rather rapidly. I'll let you know when and where she settles.
She's the one who got me here in the first place, isn't she?
Yes?
Well, please tell her to get me away again as soon as possible. I can't stand this house another minute.
Elvira, I'm surprised at you.
I don't care how surprised you are. I want to go home. I'm sick of the whole thing.
Oh, don't be childish, Elvira.
I am not being childish. I mean it.
Hi, very interesting. I smell ectoplasm strongly.
What a disgusting thing to say.
Where is she now?
Over here near me.
Are you happy, my dear?
Tell the silly old bitch to mind her own business.
Was the journey difficult? Are you weary?
She's dotty.
Oh, this is wonderful, wonderful.
For God's sake, Charles, tell her to go into the other room. I've got to talk to you.
Yes, Madame Arcotti, I wonder if you would...
Just a minute, just a minute. I almost have made contact. I can sense the vibrations. Oh, this is tremendous.
Oh, come on, Elvira. Don't be a spoilsport. Give us some encouragement.
If you'll promise to get her into the other room.
Yes, all right.
Again.
I'm so glad you're pleased.
Please get rid of her. Ruth will be in a minute.
Yes, Madam Alcotti, I wonder if you would think it frightfully rude if I asked you to go into the dining room for a moment. My first wife wishes to speak to me alone.
Oh, must I?
Yes, well, it's only for a moment, and she will be here when you get back, I promise.
You promise?
Yes.
Well, all right. All right, I'll do that. Very well.
Thank you, dear.
How good is she, really?
I don't know.
Do you really think she could get me back again?
But my dear
Oh,
child...
and don't call me your dear child. It's smug and supercilious.
Well, there's no reason to be rude.
The whole thing's been a failure. A miserable, dreary failure. And oh, what high hopes I started out with.
Well, you can't expect much sympathy from me, you know. I'm perfectly aware that your highest hope was to murder me.
Oh, don't put it like that. It sounds so beastly.
It is beastly. It's the beastliest idea I've ever heard.
There was a time when you'd have welcomed the chance of being with me forever and
Your
ever.
behavior has just shocked me immeasurably, Elvira. I had no idea you were so unscrupulous.
Oh, Charles.
Oh, stop crying.
They're only ghost tears. They don't mean anything, really, but they're very painful.
Well, you brought this all on yourself, you know.
That's right. Rub it in. Anyhow, it was only because I loved you. The silliest thing I ever did in my whole life was to love you. You were always unworthy of me.
That remark comes perilously near impertinence, Elvira.
I sat there on the other side, just longing for you, day after day. I did, really. All through your affair with that brassy-looking woman in the south of France, I went on loving you and thinking truly of you. Then you married Ruth, and even then I forgave you and tried to understand, because all the time I believed deep inside that you really loved me best. That's why I put myself down for a return visit and had to fill in all those forms and wait about in drafty passages for hours. If only you'd died before you met Ruth, everything might have been all right. She's absolutely ruined you. I hadn't been in the house a day before I realized that. Your books aren't a quarter as good as they used to be either.
That is entirely untrue. Ruth encouraged me and helped me with my work, which is a damn sight more than you ever did.
That's probably what's wrong with it.
All you ever cared about was enjoying yourself and going to parties.
Why shouldn't I have fun? I died young, didn't I?
You needn't have died at all if you hadn't been idiotic enough to go out on the river with Guy Henderson and get soaked to the skin.
So we're back at Guy Henderson again, are we?
You behaved abominably over Guy Henderson, and there's no point in pretending that you didn't.
Guy adored me. And anyhow, he was very attractive.
You told me distinctly he didn't attract you in the least.
Well, you'd have gone through the roof if I told you that he did.
Did you have an affair with Guy Henderson?
I would rather not discuss it if
Well, you
don't
must
mind.
discuss it. Answer me. Did you or didn't
Of course
you?
I didn't.
But you let him kiss you, didn't you?
Well, how could I stop him? He was bigger than I was.
Oh, you swore to me.
Oh, of course I did. You were always making scenes over nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
You never loved me a bit, really. It was only your beastly vanity.
Do you honestly think it was only vanity that made me upset when you went out on the punt with Guy Henderson?
It was not a punt, it was a little launch.
I don't care if it was a three-masted schooner. You had no right to go.
You seem to forget why I went. You seem to forget that you had spent the entire evening making sheep's eyes at that overblown harridan with the false pearls.
A woman in Cynthia Cheviot's position would hardly be wearing false pearls.
They were practically all she was wearing.
It pains me to observe that 7 years in the echoing vaults of eternity have done nothing to impair your native vulgarity.
That was the remark of a pompous ass.
There is nothing more to be gained by continuing this discussion.
You always used to say that when you were thoroughly worsted.
In looking back on our married years, Elvira, I see now with horrid clarity that they were nothing but a mockery.
You invite mockery, Charles. It's something to do with your personality, I think, a certain seedy grandeur.
Once and for all, Elvira.
You never suspected it, but I laughed at you steadily from the altar to the grave. All your ridiculous petty jealousies and your fussings and fumings.
You were feckless and irresponsible and morally unstable. I realized that before we left Budley Salterton.
Nobody but a monumental bore would have thought of having a honeymoon at Budley Salterton.
What's the matter with Budley Salterton?
I was an eager young bride, Charles. I wanted glamour and music and romance. All I got was potted palms, 7 hours a day on a damp golf course, and a 3-piece orchestra playing Merry England.
No, it's a pity you didn't tell me so at the time.
I did, but you wouldn't listen. That's why I went out on the moors that day with Captain Bracegirdle. I was desperate.
But you told me you went to see your aunt in Exmouth.
It was the moors.
With Captain Bracegirdle?
With Captain Bracegirdle.
Ow! Oh, I might have known. Oh, what a fool I've been. What a blind fool. Did he make love to you?
Of course. course.
Oh, Elvira!
Only very discreetly. He was in the cavalry, you know.
Ow! All I can say is I am well rid of you.
Unfortunately, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. You're dead, and Ruth's dead. I shall sell this place. Lock, stock, and barrel, and I shall go away.
I shall follow you.
I shall go very far away. I shall go to South America. Oh, you'll hate that. You were always such a terrible traveler.
That can't be helped. I shall have to follow you. You called me back.
I did not call you back!
Well, somebody did, and it's hardly likely to have been Ruth.
Nothing was further from my mind.
You were talking about me before dinner that evening.
I might just as well have been talking about Joan of Arc. It wouldn't necessarily mean that I wanted her to come and live with me.
As a matter of fact, she's rather fun.
Stick to the point!
Oh, and I think of what might have happened if I'd succeeded in getting you to the other world. After all, it makes me shudder, it does, honestly. It would be nothing but bickering and squabbling forever and ever and ever. I swear I'll be better off with Ruth. At least she'll find her own set and not get in my way.
Oh, so I get in your way, do I?
Only because I was idiotic enough to imagine that you loved me, and I sort of felt sorry for you.
I am tired of these insults. Please, go away!
There's nothing I should like better. I've always believed in cutting my losses. That's why I died!
Of all the brazen sophistry!
Call that old girl in again and sit at your
Oh, for
work.
heaven's sake,
You've got
stop
to get me out
sniveling!
of this
I agree,
gallery.
the sooner the better. Madam Arcotti, come in here! Come in here right now, Madam Arcotti, please!
Is the darling still here?
Yeah.
Where? Tell me where.
Over by the piano, blowing her nose.
Oh, my dear, my dear.
Oh, Charles, stop her falling on me or I shall break something.
Oh, Madam Arcotti, my wife and I have discussed it, and we think that she must go home immediately.
Oh.
Yes, wherever she came from.
Wouldn't she like to stay a day or two?
No, I want to go
I
now.
could come and be with her. I could bring my crystal.
God forbid.
No, we both decided, so strain every nerve, Madam Arcotti, make every effort. You said you had a formula. Where is it?
It's right here. It's a simple verse, really. I shall need some pepper and salt.
All right, there's pepper and salt in the dining room. I'll get it.
Should also need some shepherd's wort and a frog or two, but I think I can manage without. You won't be frightened, will you, dear? It's absolutely painless.
Is this enough?
Oh, yes. Put it on the table, please.
All right.
Let me see. Oh, sprinkle it. Just a souce on there, right in the middle.
This is going to be a flop, I can tell you that, here and now.
And now some flowers from that vase. There's a good chap.
There you are.
Merlin does this sort of thing at parties and bores us all stiff with it.
Now the gramophone. I think it should be the same music as before.
I'll get it.
Whatever you think best, Madam Arcotti.
Oh, if Mr. Emsworth of the Psychical Society should see this, he'd have a fit. He would really. Don't start it yet, dear. Now then, Mr. Cunningham, you're seated at the table. Good. Place your hand on the table, but don't put your fingers in the pepper.
Oh, right.
Let's see.
This is a waste of time. She's a complete fake.
Anything's worth trying.
Oh, I'm as eager for it to succeed as you are. Don't make any mistake about that. But I'll lay you 10 to 1 it's a dead failure.
Now then, if your wife would kindly come lie on the sofa.
Go on, Elvira.
This is sheer nonsense. Don't blame me if I get the giggles.
Concentrate. Think of nothing.
That's right. Hands by the sides, legs extended. Breathe easily. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Is she comfortable?
Are you comfortable, Elvira?
No.
She's quite comfortable.
Oh, dear. Now then, I'll join you in a moment. I may have to go into a slight trance, but if I do, just ignore it. Now, away. Start the music and away we go. Ghastly spectre, ghoul or fiend, nevermore be thou convened. Shepherd's wort and holy rite, banish thee into the night.
What a disagreeable little verse.
Be quiet.
Concentrate, shush. Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? One rap for yes, raps for no. Now then, is there anyone there?
Good.
Good stuff. Is that you, Daphne? I'm sorry to bother you, dear, but Mrs. Conley wishes to return. It's not... Daphne, did you hear what I said? Help us. Daphne! Daphne! Oh,
God!
hold on!
You know what's happening
It's
again.
going to-
Oh, no, look out! Madam Marcotte, are you all right? All right? Are you hurt, Madam Marcotte? Oh, dear. Are you hurt, Madam Marcotte?
Oh, she's in one of her damn trances again, and I'm here as much as ever I was.
Wake up, Madam Marcotte.
Oh, leave her alone. She's having a whale of a time. If I ever do get back, I'll strangle that bloody little Daphne.
Sir, what happened?
Nothing.
Is she still here?
Yes.
Something must have gone wrong.
You fell over, that's what happened.
Oh, Charles, make her do it properly. I'm sick of being messed about like
Be
this.
quiet, she is trying her best.
I know something happened. It shivered through me.
Oh,
Once and for all, Charles, what the hell does this mean? Well, we've done all we can, and I must say I couldn't be more exhausted.
It will be daylight soon.
That clock's always irritated me. It strikes far too slowly.
it was a birthday present from Uncle Walter.
Who's Uncle Walter?
Oh, Elvira's.
Well, all I can say is that he might have chosen something a little more decorative.
If that really were all you could say, Ruth, I'm sure it would be a great comfort to us all.
You can be as rude as you like to Elvira. I don't mind a bit. As a matter of fact, I should be completely surprised if you weren't.
Why?
The answer to that is really too obvious.
I wish you two would stop bickering for one moment.
This is quite definitely one of the most frustrating nights I've ever spent.
The reply to that is pretty obvious, too.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
Skip it.
Now look here, Elvira. If you and I have got to stay here together indefinitely in this house, and it looks unpleasantly likely, we had better come to some sort of an arrangement.
What sort of an arrangement?
You are not staying indefinitely in this house.
With you, then. We shall have to be with you.
I don't see why. Why don't you get a cottage somewhere?
You called us back.
I don't see what I've done. Not my
Madame
fault.
Marcotte said you did.
Oh, Madame Marcotte's a muddling old fool.
I could have told you that in the first place.
I think you're behaving rather shabbily, Charles.
What have I done?
We all agreed that as Elvira and I are both dead, it would be both right and proper for us to be dematerialized as soon as possible. We've allowed ourselves to be subjected to the most humiliating hocus-pocus for hours and hours without complaining.
Without complaining?
We've stood up, we've lain down, we've concentrated, we've sat interminably while that tiresome old woman recited tiring verses at us. We've concentrated and we've endured 5 seances. We've sat around while she flinged herself in and out of trances, and now, at the end of it all, we find ourselves exactly where we were at the beginning.
Well, it's not my fault.
Be that as it may, the least you could do is to accept failure gracefully and make the most of it. Your manners are boorish to a degree.
I'm just as exhausted as you are. I had to do all that table tapping, remember?
She can't get us back, she can't. And that's that. We shall have to think of something else.
Oh, she must get you back. There is no other option.
There's gratitude for you.
Gratitude.
Yes, for all the years we both devoted to you. You ought to be ashamed.
Well, what about all the years I devoted to you?
Oh, nonsense. We waited on you hand and foot, didn't we, Ruth? You're exceedingly selfish and always were.
Oh, well, if that's the case, I fail to see why you were so quick to get back to me.
You called us back, and you've done nothing but try to get rid of us ever since we came, hasn't he, Elvira?
Certainly has.
And now, owing to your idiotic inefficiency, we find ourselves in the most mortifying position.
Well, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you go back on your own?
We can't. You know perfectly well that we can't.
Oh, isn't there someone on the other side or whatever it's called that can help you with this?
How do I know? I've only been there a few days. Ask Elvira.
I've already told you that it's no good. If we got Mesmer, Merlin, and the Black Douglas in a row, they couldn't do a thing. The impetus has got to come from here. Perhaps Charles doesn't want us to go quite enough.
I certainly do.
Well, you must have a very weak will, then. I always suspected it.
It's no use arguing any longer. Wake up, Madame Arcotti.
Yes, please,
please,
wake up,
not
Madame
another
Arcotti.
Shake her.
I'm afraid it will upset her.
I don't care if it kills her.
Wake up, Madame Arcotti, please wake up.
What time is it?
It's 5:10.
What time did I go off?
Over an hour ago.
Ah, are they still here?
Yes.
How disappointing.
Yes. Any suggestions?
Never give in. Never give in, that's my motto. Never give up.
The schoolgirl phraseology is driving me mad.
What say we have another seance and really put our shoulders to the wheel? Make it a real rouser.
For God's sake, I implore you not to let her have another
Yes,
seance.
I do think, Madame Arcotti, there should be no further seances. After all, they haven't really accomplished very much, have they?
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yes,
you know.
I know it wasn't, but that's really
So
not the
be
point,
of
Madame
good
Arcotti.
cheer.
I really insist, Madame Arcotti, that before you go off into any further trances, we discuss the situation.
An excellent idea. And while we're doing that, I think I'll have another of these sandwiches.
Would you like some more beer?
No, thank you. Better not.
I think I'll have a whiskey and soda.
Make it a double and enjoy yourself.
One day I intend to give myself the pleasure of telling Madame Arcotti exactly what I think of her.
Now
she's
then, Mr.
doing her
Cunningham,
best. Oh, yes.
how about the discussion?
Oh, yes, hang on. Well, my wives and I have decided, well, no, we haven't decided. We discussed the idea about how they got here, and they both believe that they think that I somehow or other called them back.
Quite natural.
But I believe that the opposite. I couldn't possibly have done so.
Love is a strong psychic force, Mr.
Yes, I know
Cunningham.
it is, but-
It can work untold miracles.
I'm sure it can. But while my affection for Ruth and Elvira is of the warmest, I can't think it would come quite under the description you're floating for us today.
I should think not, indeed.
You may not know your own strength, Mr. Cunningham.
I did not call them back, either consciously or subconsciously.
But Mr.
That is my
Cunningham-
final word on the subject.
Neither of them could have returned unless there was a strong force in the house wanting them to come.
It wasn't me.
Perhaps it was Dr. Bradman. I never knew he cared.
Are you sure?
Absolutely positive.
Oh, great Scott! I've been barking up the wrong tree.
What do you mean?
Oh, the Sudbury case.
What's the Sudbury case? Explain, please.
And that was the case that made me famous, Mr. Cunningham. I had letters from all over the world about
Well,
it.
what did you do?
I dematerialized old Lady Sudbury when she had been firmly entrenched in the family clinic for over 17 years.
Oh, how? How?
By chance, a fluke, by merest coincidence. Yeah, who was in the house with us in the first seance?
There's the Bradmans and Ruth and me and you.
Ah, yes, to be sure, but the Bradmans were not here last night.
No, they weren't.
Quick, quick, my crystal.
Oh, all right.
Oh, drat the thing, it's cloudy again. Oh, yeah, that's better, that's better. There it is again. There it is again.
Now, what
I'm
is it again?
beginning to understand.
I wish I was. What's there again, dear?
A bandage, a white bandage. Hold on to a white bandage.
I haven't got a white bandage.
She's too good, you know. She ought to be in a circus.
Be you in nook or cranny, answer me. Be you in still room or closet, answer me. Be you beneath the stairs, above the eaves, in waking or sleeping, answer me. There, that ought to do it.
Do what?
Wait, just wait.
I hope she doesn't throw any more of this garlic about. It nearly made me sick last time.
Do you want the gramophone on or the lights out?
No,
and everything?
shh. It's near, very near.
If it's a ghost, I shall scream.
I hope it's nobody we know. I shall feel so silly. Did you ring, sir?
Oh,
The bandage, the white bandage.
no, Edith.
I'm sorry, sir. I could have sworn I heard the bell or somebody calling. I was asleep. Don't rightly know which it was.
Come here, child.
Oh,
Oh, no, it's all right. Go to Madame Arcotti.
Come, come. Oh, do you see she in this room, child?
Oh dear.
Answer me.
You, madam.
Go on.
The master.
Anybody else?
Oh, no, madam.
And look again.
Please, sir, I don't understand.
It's all right. Please do as Madame
Don't
Marcotte
think about
says.
the bush, child. Look again.
Do concentrate, Elvira, and keep still.
Can't.
Do you see anybody else now?
Oh, no, madam.
She's lying.
Oh, madam.
Where are they now?
By the fireplace.
Oh! She can see them! Do you mean to tell me she can see them?
Not very clearly, but enough.
Let me go. I haven't done nothing or seen nobody. Let me go back to
Give her a
bed.
sandwich.
I don't want a sandwich. I want to go back to bed.
Sit down, child.
Please do as Madame Marcotte says, Edith.
Please, sir. I don't understand, sir.
It's all right, Edith. You've done nothing wrong.
Look at
This
me.
is her business. I shall give her a week's notice tomorrow.
You may not be here tomorrow.
Look at me, Edith. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo.
Yeah, what's the matter with her? Is she balmy?
Look, Edith. This is my finger. Have you ever seen such a long, long finger? Look, it goes to the right, to the left, backwards, forward, backwards, forward. Tick, tock, tick, tock.
The mouse ran up the clock.
Be quiet. You spoil everything.
So far, so good. She's off.
Off?
She's a natural.
Oh.
And now, if you'll only gather your wives together, please.
Yes, where? Where?
Near you.
All right. Ruth, Elvira?
I resent being ordered about like this.
I don't like this at all. I don't like any of it. I feel peculiar. It would serve you right if we flatly refused to do anything at all.
Now, Edith, you feel bad for having been so mischievous, Edith?
Oh, yes, madam.
You know what to do now, don't you, Edith?
Oh, yes, madam.
I believe it's going to work, whatever it is. Charles, this is goodbye.
Goodbye.
No, Charles, just wait a minute. There's something I want to say before I go.
No, it's too late now. You should have thought of it before.
Oh, all the mean, ungracious.
Charles, listen a moment.
I saw Captain Bracegirdle again, Charles, several times. I went with him to the 400 twice when you were in Nottingham, and I must say I couldn't have enjoyed it more.
You're not getting rid of us so easily, my dear. You might not be able to see us, but we shall be here all right. I believe that you behaved atrociously throughout the way.
Oh, hurrah! I think we've done it. And that's enough singing for the moment.
Do you want me to turn on the lights?
Oh, no, I will.
They've gone! They've
Yes.
really gone!
Yes, I think we've really done it this time.
Oh, hadn't you better wake her up? She might bring them back
Oh,
again.
oh. Wake up, child. Wake up.
Good heavens, where am I?
It's all right, Edith. You can go back to bed now.
Why, it's morning.
Yes, I know it is.
Well, I was in bed. How did I get down here?
Oh, I rang. I rang and you answered. Isn't that right, Madame Marcotte?
Dear, do you think it was my concussion again?
Thank you very much, Edith. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, sir, whatever for? Oh, sir!
What
What
a
on
day.
earth did she mean by that?
What a day. I'm ready to drop in my track.
Well, would you like to stay here? There's the spare room, you
Oh,
know.
no, thank you, Mr. Economy. Each one to his own nest, you know. I can pedal home in a jiffy. It's only 7 miles.
Well, I'm deeply grateful to you, Madame Marcotte. I don't know how you usually handle these things, but I trust you will send in your accounts in a few days.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Mr. Economy. I wouldn't dream of such a thing.
Well, really, I do feel that all of those trances must have been a very difficult
I
experience.
enjoy them thoroughly. I have ever since I was a child.
Well, perhaps you'll do me the pleasure of lunching with me sometime soon.
Oh, when you get back, I should be delighted.
Get back?
Take my advice, Mr. Economy, and leave this house as soon as possible. This house must have many unhappy memories for you. There are more things in heaven and earth, Mr. Economy. Just go. Go as soon as possible.
Do you mean to say that they might still be here?
King sabe, as the Spanish say.
I wonder. I'll take your advice, Madame Marcotte, and thank you very much.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Economy. It's been fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Oh, would you mind if I took one of those sandwiches with me when I go?
No, but by all means, please.
Munch on my way home.
Yes.
I can show my way out, thank you. Have a good time. Happy hunting.
Ruth? Elvira? Are you here? I know damn well you're here. Listen, darlings, I'm going to go away, a long way away, somewhere where I don't think you'll be able to find me. You said in one of your more acid moments, Ruth, that I'd been hag-ridden all my life. Well, how right you were. But I am free now, Ruth. Not only of you, but of Mother, and Elvira, and Mrs. Winthrop Llewellyn, whatever the hell her name was. And I'd like to say that I'm enjoying myself immensely. Yes, I knew it! Ha-ha! You were very silly, Elvira, to think that I didn't know all about you and Captain Bracegirdle. What you didn't know is that I was extremely attached to Paula Westlake at the time. Ah! I was reasonably faithful to you, Ruth. I don't suppose that would have lasted much longer. You were becoming increasingly domineering, and there's nothing more off-putting than that, is there? Goodbye, my darling. I expect our paths shall meet again someday, and until they do, I just want you to know that I'm going to enjoy myself, as I have never enjoyed myself before. Nice work, Ruth. Get Elvira to help you. Persevere. Goodbye, my dears. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Blithe Spirit. Pittsburgh Community Theater really, really appreciates your support. For those of you who may be familiar with this tradition, PCT has the tradition of awarding the Gypsy Coat to somebody. It could be a cast member or someone in the production crew who has contributed what is considered the most to the production. It's a very, very difficult decision because as far as most directors are concerned, everybody deserves it. And before I tell you who is going to be the recipient of the Gypsy Coat, I just want to say thank you to a few people. The lighting design person and stage manager up in the booth, along with Stephanie from California Theater, is up here. Bobby Barlow was responsible for all of these wonderful costumes.